pretty sure someone was living in my apartment crawl space for weeks, and I didn't realize until the cops found him. I moved into my first solo apartment a couple years ago because it was cheap and close to work. It was one of those older buildings from the 70s that had clearly been renovated a bunch of times but never really updated properly. Nothing fancy, but the rent was low enough that I didn't ask questions. For the first week or so, everything felt normal. The only thing I noticed was the occasional noise above me at night. It sounded like something dropping or shifting around, but I assumed it was either the upstairs neighbor or the building settling. Later, I found out the unit above me had actually been empty for months. After a couple of weeks, little things started happening that I kept brushing off. Food would disappear, but only small amounts. A couple slices of bread missing, leftovers slightly lower than I remembered, milk running out faster than usual. I just figured I was forgetful or snacking late at night and not remembering. There was also this weird smell sometimes, mostly when the air conditioning turned on, kind of like stale sweat mixed with dusty air. I blamed the vents because the building was old and everything else about the place felt a little run down anyway. The noises at night got more consistent too. It didn't sound like rats or mice. It was heavier than that, but it only happened late at night, usually between 2 and 4 in the morning, which is when your brain is least logical. Every time I heard it, I told myself it was pipes or old ductwork and rolled over. The apartment had one thing that I thought was odd but never questioned. In my bedroom closet, there was a small square ceiling panel that gave access to the wiring crawl space. It didn't lock or screw shut, it just rested there loosely. I remember joking with a friend that it looked like something out of a horror movie, like someone could climb through it. One night I came home pretty late from work, around midnight, and the place felt off right away. My bathroom light was on even though I'm really strict about turning lights off. The shower curtain was half open. I usually keep it closed. I stood there for a minute trying to remember if I'd left it like that, and eventually convinced myself I probably had. So I locked up, watched some videos, and went to bed. Around 3 in the morning, I woke up randomly and couldn't fall back asleep. The apartment was completely quiet, but I could hear a faint movement above me, like weight shifting. It wasn't the usual little creaks. It sounded deliberate, like someone adjusting their position on the floor. That's when I finally felt genuinely uneasy. I turned on my phone flashlight and looked around my room, and my eyes landed on the closet. The ceiling panel looked slightly crooked, like one corner wasn't sitting flush anymore, like it had been moved and set back wrong. The more I stared at it, the more I realized I had no idea when it last looked normal. Instead of immediately calling the police like a smart person, I grabbed a broom and pushed the panel up to straighten it. When I did, a little bit of dust fell down, and I noticed smudges along the edge, like it had been handled recently. That was enough for me. I suddenly felt very aware that I had been sleeping directly under that opening for weeks. I left the apartment and called 911 from outside. The police showed up and actually took it seriously right away. 2 officers went inside while I waited in the parking lot feeling ridiculous and scared at the same time. After a few minutes, they called for backup. They eventually brought a guy out of my apartment in handcuffs. He looked homeless, dirty, and exhausted, and he was wearing one of my hoodies that I'd assumed I lost at a laundromat. Apparently, he'd been living in the crawl space above my unit for at least a couple of weeks. There was enough room up there for someone to lie down and store stuff. He had food wrappers, water bottles, and some of my things he'd taken from the apartment. The officers told me he'd likely been coming down when I was at work or asleep, grabbing food and using the bathroom. That explained literally everything. The missing groceries, the smell, the noises. One of the cops casually asked if I ever talked on the phone at night in my bedroom. I said yeah, sometimes. He told me the guy mentioned he could hear my conversations through the vent and would just lie there listening. That part bothered me more than anything else. I moved out as soon as I could break the lease. Turns out your instincts are usually right, and it's the excuses you make that get you. So yeah, if your food keeps disappearing and you have an unsecured crawl space above your bed, maybe don't ignore it like I did.